You know what I really like about being me?
What's up?
I am not a brand loyal person at all. I've never understood people who make a brand their entire personality and then suddenly they get heartbroken when that brand does something like off the chain. Like you got the people, they make Harry Potter their entire personality, and then J.K. Rowling came out with her anti-trans rhetoric and suddenly they were like all up in arms and felt like their life was ruined. And I've known people like Harley Davidson, or it's just like there's just brands that people just, Budweiser, the Budweiser thing, the Bud Light, that was huge. And like one person, he came in recently and just talking to him behind the counter, he asked me, he's like, are you team Ford or Chevy? And I was like, I'm team vehicle in my budget that can hold all of our kids and get me to my destination reliably. And I do not care anything else about it. And obviously I'm talking about Glock. That's the big thing that's everybody's talking about now is Glock and all the stuff that's gone down with that brand and how they're discontinuing and all that stuff. But of course, before that happened, there was the whole issue with California doing a ban on Glocks because they claimed they could be turned into assault weapons, or no, not assault weapons. They said they could be turned into automatic guns, basically. So, and it's kind of interesting to me because I think Glock could have gotten a ton of support from the community, even people who were not pro Glock, the people, the Smith & Wesson people who tend to look down at Glock. I think they would have been very supportive of Glock if Glock had been willing to dig down its heels and take it to court and all this stuff, instead of just discontinuing their items. But a lot of people I've noticed, like just followers, people who are commenting on our Facebook and stuff, they're wanting to know what was the whole thing between Glock and California that led up to this. So it says here, a new law was passed in California restricting sales of a popular type of handgun that critics have said can be too easily converted into a machine gun. The law signed by Gavin Newsom, of course, on October 10th will outlaw the retail sales of semi-automatic handguns that can be easily modified using category tools known as Glock switches, machine gun conversion devices that interfere with the gun's trigger device to allow shots to continually fire while the trigger is pressed. The law comes after years of criticism and litigated aimed at Glock for continuing to manufacture guns compatible with the switches. Devices can enable pistols to fire at rates of up to 1,200 rounds per minute, according to gun control advocacy groups.
I mean, first of all, we can't base California on any groundbreaking anything. They make a bunch of stupid laws all the time. So it's just like, for California to restrict another thing, it's just like, oh yeah, go figure. I mean, they let the citizens fight the police if they feel like the police are not within the purview of their duty. So anything California has to say should go in one ear and out the other is my first comment on it. But I mean, yeah, it is true. Glock switches can make them fully automatic, and it has been a big issue. And I don't know how I can comment on whether I would be for or against it. But the last thing that pops out in that is like, 1,200 rounds per minute. That's freaking ridiculous. I mean, first off, I don't know anybody that can change a magazine out that quickly. I mean, even if you got a 50-round drum, which Glock tends to have, you're looking at, what is that? I mean, that's like 24 drums you would need to do 1,200 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna hold the trigger down, shoot 50 rounds, replace it, the drum, load it again, fire it, and do that 24 times within a minute to get 1,200 rounds. And that's not to mention if your freaking gun doesn't explode within the first 4 drums,
Yeah, because I was thinking about that. I'm like, that would be generating a lot of heat. Would
Yeah, your barrel would melt.
Would a Glock survive long enough to shoot 1,200 rounds in a minute? Like,
no,
would it reach the full minute, even if you could drop a drum and load it in like the time it takes?
Fully automatic weapon, for instance, most people know that M249, which is the squad automatic weapon, the SAW. Everybody knows the SAW. That is designed to be a fully automatic firearm, and it has a replaceable barrel. Most people that operate the SAWs have to learn how to change the barrels out quickly, apply lubricant that's going to keep everything moving. It's belt fed, so it's I think the belt fed magazines are like 200 round magazines. It's in a can, it's fed through the belt, and even those fire 850 rounds per minute, and that's with a trained soldier knowing how to operate it, knowing how to do the controlled bursts, because you don't want to just hold down the trigger the whole time. It's still controlled bursts, and those only fire 850 rounds per minute, and that's still with regulating the temperature of the barrel and having to swap it out. You got special guns that you need to swap it, or special gloves that you got to swap out the barrel, and it's a whole process. So the fact that some gun advocacy group somewhere that they're not even claiming, they're not even sourcing it, they're just saying
they sourced
gun
it.
advocacy group.
Every town for gun safety.
According to the gun control advocacy group, every town for gun safety. Well, never heard of them, and the fact that they want to say, again, even if you could replace these magazines quickly enough, hold the trigger down and shoot it within a minute, the barrel wouldn't survive. Then you're talking about, okay, let me have a spare barrel in my pocket so I could swap it out really quick, and yeah, I guess you could get trained to do that, but no, in all intents and purposes, a Glock is not shooting 1,250 or 1,200 rounds per minute, even with a sear on it. It's just ridiculous to think that the barrel would melt or burn your hand before you even have a chance. It gets so hot you wouldn't even be able to touch it anymore.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm like, wouldn't it like freaking melt in your hand?
Yeah, it would get very hot very quickly.
Like I think of the Waffle House shooter. He didn't shoot nearly that many, and the man who stopped him, he grabbed the barrel and it seared his hand. And it's like, but somehow your tiny little Glock is going to be able to handle that many rounds in that amount of time.
I mean, the thing is, the fact that California is just going, let's just ban Glocks because Joe Schmo citizen somewhere was able to create a Glock switch, or they call them auto sears, that allows it to fire fully automatic by just holding down the trigger. Well, I mean, essentially, if given enough time, anybody could probably create that. And I'm not going to claim to be some expert on auto sears and stuff like that, but you're taking away a gun because a few people have auto sears. And then you ask the question, well, technically by federal law, if you have the right licensings, you can own a fully automatic weapon. If you get the special licensing, you can own I believe it's class 3, and don't quote me on that, but you can own fully automatic weapons with special licensing. So then why ban auto sears and Glocks altogether if, it brings up a whole nother argument of, well, if you want a Glock sear or an auto sear that allows it to be fully automatic, then you have the special licensing for it. But then the whole thing is, I think the whole premise behind it is they're unregulated. People can make them, you can get them very easily. Glocks are easy to, and that's why all Glocks have them, because they're easy to switch out. So yeah, and like you said earlier, instead of Glock holding down the fort and saying, hey, this isn't our fault if people are making these things.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't a Glock switch illegal? Like for
yes,
basically most of the time.
Yeah.
So how is it, if it's illegal but it's still a problem, how is making the Glock illegal gonna fix it? Because they already showed that they are not capable of keeping the switches out of criminal hands.
Right. I mean, the ATF can't regulate the switches as it is. It's just the same way as like, oh, more gun control is all they're gonna do is ban the law-abiding citizens from having tools to defend themselves. Because most people who have the auto sears, this is a very hot topic for me to say this, most people who have the auto sears and are using them in crimes are not
Law-abiding citizens?
citizens. And law-abiding citizens that do have auto sears aren't using them in crimes, or they wouldn't be law-abiding citizens. So the only people we're finding that have them are the people that are out committing crimes. And then you're talking about, oh, the ATF finds out, they can raid your house and all this kind of stuff, and we've seen what happens before with that.
And set your kids on fire?
Yeah, so I mean, banning again, California does, I don't even want to, using that as a groundbreaking thing for that is ridiculous in the first place. But the fact that Glock didn't just hammer down and say, okay, well, that sucks and we don't like it too, but it's not our fault. It's that people are creating these things. We got several things now that can make semi-automatics shoot faster. They might not be fully automatic, but they can shoot faster. Binary triggers, FRT triggers, people shave down triggers to make them lighter. So instead, Glock just goes, okay, we'll just disband all of our firearms and create a new generation of firearms, which arguably somebody could just say, well, give it time and someone will just create a new auto sear for that. You give them enough time, somebody will study it, and then they'll just make something for that. So, just them catering to, and I don't even want to say Democrats or leftists. I try to avoid political statements, but catering to the anti-gun activists is like, well, it's going to be good for Smith & Wesson because Glock's going to lose. Glock is the number one purchased firearm for law enforcement agencies nationwide. And it's either a Glock 17 or a Glock 19 that most law enforcement agency uses, and those are two that they're disbanding. So the question now is what's going to happen to law enforcement agencies? Are they going to have to purchase the new Gen Vs or the Glock Vs or whatever they're called, and how much is that going to cost? And well, it's going to come down to, which my personal favorite, especially being prior law enforcement officer, is Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0. It's going to be great for Smith & Wesson because they're going to get a lot of law enforcement contracts because, well, Glock's not going to support them anymore. And I don't think the agencies are going to want to fund their entire agency replacing to these new Glock Vs.
Well, I know Glock on their website covered what they planned on doing. I briefly read over it. Okay. Now, here's all the stuff they're discontinuing: the G17 Gen 4, G17 MOS, Gen 4 and Gen 5, G17L Classic, blah 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 blah. I'm not even going to read all that. There's a lot.
The new Gen Vs or the Glock Vs that they're calling them, I believe, aren't even going to be MOS compatible at first. Maybe down the road they will. So now you're like, okay, well, all these people that they've got their Glocks that like to have the optics on it are either going to have to spend more money to get them tapped and screwed so they can put optics on them because they're not going to become optics ready anymore.
Yeah, I did hear that.
Do these profile changes affect law enforcement? Glock remains fully committed to supporting the various needs of our law enforcement partners. While IOP programs may be affected, Glock is prepared to work closely with law enforcement partners and make sure officers and agencies' needs are met. Yeah, so it didn't answer any questions.
Yeah.
It just said, we're going to try to work with law enforcement. Yes.
Now, my thing is the fact that they're not willing to own it. And so you go on Glock's website and it says, why is Glock discontinued so many models? And it's saying, because of Gavin Newsom's. They're like, in order to focus on the products that will drive further innovation and growth, we're making strategic decisions to reduce our current commercial portfolio. The streamlined approach also allows us to concentrate on continuing to deliver the highest quality and most relevant solutions for the market. And it's like, you're full of crap, man. Like, yeah, it just so happened.
Strategic decision to reduce our current commercial. What business wants to reduce their commercial portfolio?
Creating scarcity. It raises the prices.
Yeah. And the thing is, I was talking to a customer about that the other day. It's like, well, our Glock price is going to go up because they're not making them anymore, and now you have guns that are discontinued. It's like, I think everybody should just get rid of them. Like, Glock is going to go under just like Bud Light went under for their thing. It's like you're catering to the anti-gun activists because you're scared of the fact that these Glock sears and old California and stuff. It's like, okay, well, even if that's true, most gun advocates are seeing it that way. You're catering to the anti-gun act. You're catering to the people that don't even buy your product.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, why do I want to buy your product anymore?
Yeah, and it's not like not carrying your product anymore is going to suddenly get those customers.
Yeah, or
So-
upgrading to the drive future innovations and growth.
I mean, it seems to me the whole thing,
Sure.
it would have been a much better idea for them to get like the ACLJ behind them and to fight it and make it a huge deal. And it would be something people would be intrigued by and wanting to watch. And like I said, even the people who are not pro, like Glock, the Smith and Wesson people, you know, the Canic people who tend to very much dislike Glock, people like, I don't know, you would still be like, whoa, mad respect to the company. You're standing up for the Second Amendment. Which
Yeah,
you have always been anti-Glock.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Glock fan.
There's basically in your mindset, there's like high point, which is like 5 feet under the line, and then there's Glock, and then everything else is just.
Well,
on
I mean,
top.
high point, you couldn't give me a high point for free. I wouldn't take it. I mean, you give me a free Glock, I'll put it in my safe. I mean, they shoot reliable, they shoot accurately, I guess. You give me a Glock, I'll shoot it accurately.
Hey, I hear
but-
Glock. I hear high point is super reliable.
But I just don't like the feel of it in my hand, and everybody's different. So, and again, it goes back to the Ford versus Chevy guys. You'll have 100 people tell you Ford's better than Chevy. You'll have 100 people tell you Chevy better than Ford. If the Glock feels good in your hand, great. It doesn't feel good in my hand. I don't like it. I've never liked them. And yeah, high points, but no. But yeah, I mean, again, you're catering to the people that don't even buy your product. That goes back to the whole Bud Light thing. It's like most of your people are not whatever his name is.
I know people who are far left and LGBTQ, and those people are buying much higher quality beer than Bud Light. They're going
White Claws.
they're going to like a mom and pop place where they brew it themselves there, you know? They're getting like, you know, those craft beers that are like actually kind of special. Those are what they are drinking.
But the thing is, I can't even pretend to know fully how these auto sears work. I'm not a gunsmith. I know very limited information about fixing stuff. I can't do that, but I'm no gunsmith, so I can't claim to know fully how these auto sears work. But I have to imagine that even if we can't regulate Joe Schmo citizen making these auto sears, there's got to be a way that Glock could just do something to help prevent it besides discontinuing all their guns. And even if it's not, even if they go, no, there's nothing we could do, because like I said earlier, all that's going to happen is the Glock V is going to come out and give it some time, and they'll create an auto sear for that. So it's just like, okay, well, it's like the 3D printed guns. We can't stop people from 3D printing guns. We can't stop people from 3D printing ammunition. There's been documented cases where somebody has gotten past complete security and metal scanners because they 3D printed an entire plastic gun and ammo, and it shoots fast enough and hard enough to kill somebody. So it's like, you know, now where are we going to draw the line with the Second Amendment? Yeah, there are some crappy things that happen with guns. You know, I'll be the first person to say that, but as soon as we draw the line in preventing something, that just gives them the line to continually cross over. It's like the whole assault rifle thing. It's like, you want to ban assault rifles? Fine, ban assault rifles. Because you're banning nothing, because there's no such thing as an assault rifle. It's a made-up term that you made up to fearmonger people. But then I was telling somebody the other day, it's like, if we go about that and they ban assault rifles, now we no longer have rifles. All they're going to start doing is calling handguns assault handguns. And for not too long ago, I could probably find it somewhere, I read a news article about a shooting that was done with a handgun, and the news reporter called it an assault handgun. So all they got to do is stick the term on that, and now as soon as we ban that, they can ban other things. So yeah, these auto sears can be a problem, especially if used in hands of criminals, but it's like, I don't know the answer to solve that problem. And because as soon as we draw a line, all it does is create more.
I mean, is it unfair though to say, I don't know the answer to the problem, but it's not Glock's problem? It's like, you know, we're not, let's take for instance, we're in Tennessee, we're not in California. I'm not seeing a bunch of criminals going around with switched up Glocks, going da, 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 and shooting 1,200
I spent 12
rounds.
years in law enforcement, and never once, to this day, have I come across a Glock with an auto sear on it. I mean, I guess we could ask, maybe even pull up ChatGPT just for shits and giggles, see what they say. But like, there's not a lot of auto sears out there in the first place. How many auto sears out there? How many of them being used? What are the documented cases on auto sears being used versus how many Glocks are being manufactured and out there in the hands of the public? And then come up with like, okay, less than 0.001% of Glocks nationwide have auto sears, and of that percentage, less than half have been used in crimes. And again, it might be hard to actually statistically quantify that. But then you go back to the question of, well, is it Glock's problem? Well, my answer to that would be going back to cars. It's like, we have so many people that are souping up cars every day. You buy a Ford and you're souping it up, you're messing with the engine, you're making it faster, you're putting turbo in it, nitrous oxide in it. That nitrous oxide does not come from the factory like that. It makes them super fast. It's been known to cause crashes, serious injuries and deaths. They use it in drag racing. They're lowering cars, they're heightening cars, they're doing all this kind of stuff to them. But nobody's going after Ford and saying, these people are putting nitrous in these Fords and it's causing them to go 200 miles an hour and they're getting in crashes and stuff like that. So yeah, Ford is probably going to go, that's not our problem if they're putting
like,
aftermarket cars.
Don't we have law enforcement and men on patrol for a reason?
I mean, if we find that stuff and they're using it in crimes, then, or using it to commit crimes or using it to hurt themselves or somebody else, then there's punishments for that. But it's like, Ford's not going to go, okay, we're going to discontinue all our cars and come out with new cars where it's impossible for people to make nitrous or put nitrous in them. And so,
let's circle back to the whole thing. Then they're saying the switches are becoming a problem with criminals. Where are these criminals? Because I've never even read about a mass shooting where it said a man armed with a Glock with a switch. Like, I've never read that. Like, have you?
No, and that's why I said I have no personal
I'm
experience
going,
with it.
is this a California problem? Is this something that's happening just in California?
Right, that's what I said. What's the statistics on this?
These firearms are not banned in Tennessee, but we have the same laws concerning switches that California has.
Most states do.
And we're not going, well, this is a problem. We're seeing this. And it's like, so either it's not a problem, it's just I heard people say Democrats are addicted to outrage. And they will find something to be outraged about.
Well, it's like the assault rifle. It's the fear mongering. There's no such thing as assault
but
rifle.
But at least I can go, yes, here is an example. Somebody took an AR-15, which is something that you think is an assault rifle, and used it to commit a crime. I cannot think of a time when I've read about somebody committing a crime with a switched up Glock.
Yeah, and again,
Like,
I'd like to know the statistics on it to see how prevalent this is happening. And then they're going back, well, we're seeing the criminals using these auto sears and these Glock switches. It's like, okay, you mean people that shouldn't have the guns in the first place? Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, well, more gun control. No, well,
how many?
The criminals have them in the first place.
We have like 200 gun laws. At what point do we have to just admit gun control does not work?
Well, look at our 3 most violent cities in our nation have the most strict gun laws. I mean, yeah, it doesn't work. And again, they want to go, well, the criminals are using the auto sears. Okay, well, the criminals shouldn't have the guns in the first place. And I really like your point. It's like going back to my point on the statistics. Is it actually happening, or are they just saying it's happening? And if it is happening, how much is it happening? Where is it happening?
Apparently, it is a California issue. And so what that means is there's 50 states, and Glock is discontinuing everything except for their V-lines to appease one whiny state out of 50, because let's assume, I'm going to be the devil's advocate, and I'm just going to assume, yes, there is an issue every freaking day. Somebody is taking a Glock, putting a switch on it. I'm going to just pretend like it's true. Every day this happens. Well, it's only happening in California. It sounds like you suck at keeping crime low, because I don't see that happening in Tennessee. I can think off the top of my head like 6 people who I know own Glocks. And I will be driving down the road and I will see a truck and it'll have that big, weird G shape. And I'll think to myself, I think that vehicle might have a truck gun in it. I have never even seen a Glock with a switch. I can think of some people I say, if there was someone who had one, I bet it would be him. But he ain't committing no crimes with it. So it sounds like the real problem is California sucks at keeping its crime low. But that has nothing to do with this company.
Yeah, I mean, and again, that's to assume that it's just California's problem, and I don't know. It sounds like it is, but I don't know the statistics on it. You know, like I said, I'd really like to, we know ChatGPT or these AIs aren't like scholarly resources, but I'd like to go, in the last 10 years, how many documented cases, you know, have been, Glocks here's been used in crimes, and it's like, well, again, I'd be willing to imagine out of the number of Glocks nationwide, it's a very, very low amount of documented auto sears or Glock switches, whatever you want to call them, being used in crimes. And if it's dedicated to specific states, it goes back to the same question of, well, your gun controls don't work. Like you said, we can't keep our crime rates down, and so we're going to blame it on Glock switches. And then
A 570% increase in Glock switches found at crime scenes, according to the ATF.
okay, 570%. If
it was zero, that'd be
right. Six Glock switches. If you know, it's like
so that doesn't
they
mean
make
anything.
it sound
That's just,
so bad. You know, you read all these articles, make it sound so bad. It's like 570%.
No, I want a number.
Increase in what? From what? You know, 570% increase from 1,
like
10 nationwide. Even if there were 100 nationwide, I mean.
All right, so it says, let's see, in Georgia, the past probably 5 or 6 years, probably 5 or 6
5
years.
or 6, probably.
They started to pick up here recently in the past 3 years. What does that even mean? In Georgia, for the past probably 5 or 6 years, they've started to pick up here recently in the past 3 years. Special Agent Gibson. Well, he sounds, whatever. He sounds like he puts the special in special agent.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Yeah. It
Those-
probably is not statistics, it's not facts.
Yeah. Oh, it's probably been more than the 5 or 6 in the past 3 years. Like, what are you talking about? The data shows nationally there has been a 570% increase in law enforcement finding guns with machine gun conversion devices attached at crime scenes. But that doesn't mean it was used in the crime. It's just saying, oh, we found a Glock and it has one attached. That means so a woman could commit a crime, shoplifting, and she has it in her purse. And she gets caught and be like, oh, but that doesn't mean it was used in the crime.
Right, I mean,
And
it's still trying to have it converted.
570% increase, which is like, okay.
Right, from what? I mean, okay, let's say there was 100, you know, that would mean there's almost 600, and even if there were 600, even if there were 6,000 crimes documented nationwide over the last 10 years, that's 600 per year out of how many Glocks are actually in the nation. You know, that's, I would gather that's still less than 1% of Glocks nationwide that have been used. And again, not just found, but used in a crime.
Yeah, it says found, not used.
Found Glock
And then
conversion.
a recent report by the ATF shows that between 2012 and 2016, they seized 814 of them. And that number jumped to 5,400 between 2017 and 2021. But that's saying how many they took. Does not say anything about whether or not they were used in crimes.
Right, but in 4 years, they're claiming in 4 years they seized 5,400 Glocks that had the conversion kit on them. So that's a little over 1,000 a year. Out of how many Glocks nationwide? And then again, how many of them were used in crimes? You know, that those sound like big numbers, but they're really not. I mean, and again, how many of them used in a crime?
Special Agent Gibbons said that law enforcement can easily tell based on the amount of shell casings a crime scene if a switch was used in the shooting. The most dangerous part, oftentimes it allows bullets to hit unintended targets or people. Duh.
That's the right, go back to that statement. This is a Special Agent Gibbons from the ATF, right, who are supposed to be trained experts, right? You're ATF, so you should know. Special Agent Gibbons said law enforcement can easily tell based on the amount of shell casings at a crime scene if a switch was used in a shooting. That's the most bullshit statement I've ever heard.
And why is that?
Because I can have two 30-round magazines. I can stand at it, do a drive-by shooting, or stand and do a shooting, and take as much time as I need to shoot 60 rounds, 30 rounds, unload, shoot 60 rounds. There's 60 shell casings on the floor. How are they supposed to tell if that came from a semi-automatic or a fully? You can't look at shell casing and go, "Yep, that was a fully automatic." The number of shell casings on the floor.
If you were
That's dumb.
still certified law enforcement, you would understand. Okay, but you can't anymore. You
Unless
lost that
somebody were to
power.
say, unless you had 50 witnesses that said, I heard 50 rounds go off in 1 second and, or whatever, and still that's kind of unimaginable. Based on his statement, law enforcement can tell, based on the amount of shell casings at a crime scene, if a switch was used. Based on that statement alone, that's not true.
Then it says, my biggest fear is that they're being utilized in public places, schools, that kind of stuff.
Well,
My biggest fear is that they're being, not that they will be used. But I thought you said you can tell. What do you mean? My biggest fear is that they're being used in public school.
well, I
That
mean,
doesn't
yeah,
make
they do
sense.
reduce accuracy to almost zero. Like they just go, so yeah.
It makes
You know.
sense if he said, my biggest fear is that one day they'll be used. That's legit. He says, is that they are being used. But if they're being used, you would know. What do you mean? It's your biggest fear. That doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know, maybe he just sucks at grammar. Maybe he's just really bad at grammar. But yeah, in this article, it does not give any statistics on how many crimes per year are actually involving using. I want to hear about a shooting, because he said, well, law enforcement can tell. Well, give us a number, dude. Give us a number. Law enforcement, okay. You went in like freaking Aragorn and was like, oh, a switch was used here. Well, how many times? In early July, multiple shooters fired more than 100 bullets into a crowded party on the east side of Detroit, wounding 19 people and killing 2. The police covered 9 weapons at the scene, including a Glock fitted with a switch. What happened to the 1,200 rounds that it can shoot in a
Multiple
minute?
shooters for shooting. Multiple shooters fired more than 100 bullets. Okay, unfortunately, that's not hard. I mean, that's really not hard to fire. If you got multiple people shooting 100 rounds, that's
you're
not
carrying
hard.
like 72 on
I
a day you go to Walmart.
I have
so.
70 rounds. Yeah, I got 3 23-round magazines, one in the chamber. I got 70 rounds. Yeah, can I get those off pretty quickly? Yeah. If you got multiple people with that,
Yeah, it takes
and
2
one of
injuries.
them, one gun
One
was
of
found
them-
with a switch,
yes.
and it doesn't say it was used.
Yeah, and
It said-
apparently it wasn't, because they only got 100 bullets out and it can shoot
Oh,
1,200.
yeah, I mean, you're gonna be able to
So
tell a thumbnail-sized device and whatever. As many as 20 rounds per second. Yeah, sure, but again, you're not getting 1,200 rounds per minute. That's for sure. And again, they're using the same statistic there: 500% increase from the preceding 5 years. 500% increase over 5, or 570% increase over 5 years, starting at what number though? And again, even if it was that 5,400 number, that's 5,400 over 5 years, based on the amount of Glocks actually circulating the nation.
1 million Glocks manufactured worldwide, with an estimated 1 million plus Glocks sold in the USA every year. In 2023 alone, Glock manufactured 345,119 pistols in the United States.
Okay, 1 million plus Glocks sold in the United States each year. So we're going 2017 to 2021, which is statistics that they gave earlier. That's 5 million Glocks over 5 years, and 5,400 were recovered to say it have switches. Not used in the crime, just 5,400. So what's that
That wasn't
percentage?
how many were used in a crime, that's how many were recovered and there was said, hey, I mean, which I guess they could fudge the numbers by saying, but having it made it a crime, therefore 100% were used in a crime. But I'm saying in a violent crime. I know, I just undid your mathing, didn't
Yeah, I was just, so, that's 0.108.
I? 0.108%.
Yeah, 0.108%. Over 5 years, so 0.108% of Glocks over a 5-year period were found to have Glock switches in it. And then let's just that's 0.0216 per year.
And we still didn't find any information on how many were actually used in a violent crime.
Right. 0.0216 Glocks recovered per year, over a 5-year period, that had Glock switch conversions on them, but weren't necessarily used in a crime.
In a violent crime.
Let's just say 50% of them were huge.
Okay, we'll just pull that number out of our head.
Let's just say 50% of those were recovered. So that's 0.0108. 0.0108. If we were to just make up a number of Glock switches, of Glocks, containing Glock switches were used in a crime based on the numbers we found, and then making up a 50% number, which 50% is probably way over exaggerated.
Yeah, I'd say so.
You know, so yeah, I mean, no, it's not a problem nationwide. Again, I go back to the nitrous in the cars. It shouldn't be Glock's problem either. Do we need to do something about it? Sure, we got law enforcement that's trying to do something. If you have it and it's illegal to have, you'll be arrested for it. If it's used in a crime, that sucks. That really does suck. But it's not Glock's issue, and the fact that Glock is folding to
And
it.
it's not exactly an endemic. It's just.
Yeah, they're making it out to be this huge
Yeah, it's
problem.
not a huge
Glock
thing.
switches are everywhere. Well, based on the statistics they just gave us, that's not true.
They
We
didn't
just
give
found-
us statistics.
Well, 5,400 seized over 5 years, 5 million over 5 years.
Yeah, okay, I'm still thinking of crime. My mind's still on crime. Because let's face it, how many people are doing it just because it's cool?
Yeah, I mean,
Like, let's face it, the
most
majority of
people-
it is, it's guys who are like,
yes,
cool.
most people want to have it to go to the range and go one time, and they're only going to do it one time
Because it's freaking expensive.
yeah, you just spent $25 on 50 rounds that
It's
you
the
could
most
spend it in
thrilling
1
2
second.
seconds
you know?
of your
Yeah,
life.
It's like, okay, yeah. So again, we don't really know the statistics of how many auto sears and Glock switches are out there, because how many law-abiding citizens, and we're saying law-abiding loosely because it is illegal to have them, and if you are found with
We'll
them,
say
you could-
non-violent
non-violent
individuals.
people are out there, to your point, using them on the range and going, oh, that's cool. And then, you know, so statistically speaking, can we really know how many are out there? No. But how many are being used in a crime or being seized is such an insignificant number that, yeah, I'm surprised Glock folded so much. And as a gun owner, it makes me go, well, buy Glock, you know, not buy Glock.
Yeah, I was
but
gonna say, buy Glock.
You know, sorry. You know, I liked Bud Light. I don't drink that much, but I used to drink Bud Light when I wanted to. Well, Coors just got my, Coors got my approval.
Yeah, it's
so-
funny, I never had a Bud Light before that whole thing, and my first Bud Light was actually after. So that's how rebellious I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of questions that are going to come up from this. I don't know if we'll even get answers to. My first thought was what's going to happen with law enforcement agencies nationwide, which I go back to that. I'm a huge Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0
Yeah, you
fan.
hate Glock on a good day.
Yeah, I mean, I think law enforcement agencies nationwide should have the M&Ps. I will advocate for that, and I'll argue that, change my mind. But, I hope all law enforcement agencies nationwide go, hey, it's time to switch to M&Ps. Well, because they're not going to the P320s now, Glock's shutting down, so here comes Smith & Wesson for the save, I bet you Smith &
Which
Wesson's
means
going.
more work for our people in Maryville.
Yeah, I bet you Smith & Wesson's rubbing their hands right now. Let's get some, and I follow Smith & Wesson on Facebook. They're constantly saying, yeah, we got another law enforcement agency contract. They're great, they're a great company. They're great guns. And yeah, I bet you Smith & Wesson's licking their lips right now going.
They're looking around going, so what other competitors are going to self-destruct?
Yeah, I mean, You got Glock, Smith & Wesson, and SIG. Those are the three top firearms that are used nationwide in law enforcement agencies. And, well, you
It
just
went from
dropped
the
two.
holy trinity to the dynamic duo to, okay, never mind.
Yep. So I'd like to see where this goes. And again, as far as the auto sear aspect and the criminal aspect, I wish I knew the answers to that. I wish I knew the answers to a lot of problems and gun violence. And, you know, I'm obviously, if I knew the answers, I'd be getting paid. But, yeah, I think the original question was, is it Glock's problem? And my answer to that is no, it shouldn't have been.
Okay, so one more thing before we end this for the night. Do you expect there'll be panic buys? So we should be grabbing up whatever Glocks we can because there's going to be all these people. Are Glocks going to be the new Beanie Babies?
Well, that's what I kind of hinted on that a little bit earlier. I don't know if these are going to be a thing where everybody's going to buy them now because they're going to become rare and they're not using anymore. So buy it because in 10 years they're going to be, these antique guns that are discontinued and the prices are going to go up. Or are people going to go, screw this, Glock folded to the anti-gun activists, so their prices will plummet and nobody's going to want to buy it.
Yeah, because that's my thing is I'm kind of going this is either going to make your Glocks that you own as an individual gun owner worth a lot or very little.
Because
us as the middlemen who sell the firearms, I'm going, it's like that meme with the guy looking at the two buttons. It's like stock up or
at this
don't
point, I
carry
think
them.
it's 50-50 right now. It's either going to go up because they're discontinued or it's going to go way down because nobody's going to want them anymore. Because it's just going to be a remembrance of Glock folding. And I'd really want to see if Glock will recover from this. If anybody's even going to buy the new Glock V's.
I would respect Glock a lot more if they just admitted as to why. If they said, people have been using our firearm for unintended purposes and we want to shut that down. I would respect that more than being like, oh no, it's where innovation is. We're not 5. Okay? Seriously.
We've been seeing it, especially over the last 10 years, is they think we're dumb. The media thinks we're dumb. A lot of our politics think we're dumb. And I say we by the citizens of the nation. And unfortunately, the more we see, the more I'm thinking that's true. It's like we've become very spoiled and we've become very dumb because we believe stuff like that. It's like we can't even tell AI versus from videos anymore. So they're just believing.
And my husband.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I guess that sums it up.
So.
All right. I want to hear everybody's opinion on this whole Glock controversy. What do you think?
Price is going to go up. Price is going to go down.
Does
you're going to stay with Glock. You're not going to stay with
does this make you no longer respect the company, or are you still it's a good product? I've been carrying a Glock for years. I imagine it's hitting the Glock fanboys pretty hard.
Keep in mind, one thing that I've been preaching for a long time is it's okay to have cordial conversations and discourse, and you cannot agree with me and still have a conversation, and that's totally fine. These are still opinions, and we don't have factual data yet and stuff, but it's okay to have discourse. So I'd like to hear your opinions, and if you got any questions, feel free to ask.
Bye.